In the previous video concerning a time of great tribulation, we learned of the devastations caused by the 7 trumpets, and that Lucifer will physically appear on earth at the 5th trumpet and head a one-world church-state government. One particular event not mentioned in the previous video is the testimony and the purpose of the 2 witnesses and the 144,000. We will elaborate more on these 2 topics and their importance in another study, but for the purpose of understanding the following timelines in this study, Matthew 24:14 states that the gospel of the kingdom will be preached in all the world as a testimony to all nations. Then the end will come. In short, the 144,000 are sealed prior to the start of the devastation brought on by the trumpets. They bring forth the testimony of Christ, empowered by the 2 witnesses, and act as messengers proclaiming the gospel during the Great Tribulation for 1,260 days, when their testimony will be the most effectively received. And I will appoint my 2 witnesses, and they will prophesy for 1,260 days, clothed in sackcloth. The connection here is that the following verses we learn that the beast from the abyss, Lucifer, will overpower and kill them. Thus, they are proclaiming the gospel during a time of great devastation on earth. Let's first go back to Daniel to better understand the timelines during the last days and how they fall in line with one another. There are 2 specific spans of time mentioned in Daniel 12 verse 11 and 12. Durations of time which pertain to certain events. Let's first look at Daniel 12:12, for this is the last and longest duration mentioned before the verse finishes. Blessed is the one who waits for and reaches the end of the 1335 days. These 1335 days will have a beginning point and an end point. The beginning point being the start of Great Tribulation, and the 1335th day being the last day, the day of the Lord. Verse 13 follows as Daniel is told he will rest, and at the end of days he will receive his allotted inheritance, meaning Daniel will be part of the resurrection of the righteous dead at the second coming. As previously mentioned, the role of the 144,000 is to proclaim the gospel as a testimony to all nations, and prophesy for 1,260 days. This will take place during the 7 trumpets until their testimony is finished and they are killed. Revelation 13:5 tells us that the beast was given a mouth to speak arrogant and blasphemous words, and authority to exercise power for 42 months. Remember, this government does not exist at the 1st trumpet, however it will form quickly as the trumpets sound and act to appease the wrath of God. Next, let's read the previous verse in Daniel 12, verse 11. From the time that the daily sacrifice is abolished, and the abomination that causes desolation is set up, there will be 1,290 days. The daily sacrifice mentioned in this verse refers to the end of the daily sacrifices conducted in heaven at the altar of incense. This is the casting down of the censer in Revelation 8:5 as the 1335 days of great tribulation is about to commence, and no more atonement will be made for mankind on behalf of heaven. Thus, God's wrath will be poured out on the world. The 7 trumpets are about to sound. To better understand, see Hebrews chapter 8 verse 1-5 on the doctrine of parallel temples, earthly and heavenly. It is also worth noting that because of what Jesus accomplished on the cross, he atoned for the sins of man, and the temple was destroyed in AD 70. There is no more need for the daily services here on earth. We now see that the abolishing of the daily sacrifice in heaven and the casting of the censer are the same event signaling the start of Great Tribulation. But from that time until the abomination that causes desolation is set up, there will be 1,290 days. Lucifer is the abomination. He is all that is evil, all that is detestable, and all that opposes God and the will of God. 1,290 days into the Great Tribulation, many will have already perished, many wicked, but also many of the saints. One way this can be looked at, Lucifer will make a final attempt to make the earth completely desolate of those opposing his one-world theocracy, those who submit to Christ, and will command that all remaining saints or opponents be killed. Remember, at the 6th trumpet, the devil and his angels are permitted to kill 1/3 of mankind. Date 1,290, of course, is after the 7 trumpets and in the midst of the 7 bowls. We can speculate at this point that the pouring of the 7 bowls is roughly a 75-day time period, for when the 144,000 are cut off and killed at the end of 1,260 days, there are 75 days remaining until the 1335th day. The plagues that will afflict those who took the mark of the beast will be poured out after the 7 trumpets, and these are the 7 bowls, vindictive judgments upon the wicked. Lucifer will convince the world that this is the doing of the saints, and it is for this reason that the command for the remaining saints to be killed will be issued. However, this is approaching the imminent second coming of Christ and the 6th bowl. Revelation 16 reveals that there will be a gathering for battle on the great day of God Almighty, and the Lord will defeat the beast. We can also speculate that the saints will not be killed after this order is given, for God and his angels will intervene and ultimately prevail.